all of the labels, all of the texts mean the same thing, and the only reason there are all these different labels for the same thing is because the same message of love has been said in many different places in the world and at many different times. But if we really analyze it and think for ourselves, we will see that it 100% is the same thing. Let's start with the Abrahamic religions because there's so much drama, as we all see on the news, happening because of misunderstanding of the Abrahamic religions and teachings. Let's start with the label Jew. If we understand Yehuda, or the label of what Jew means, it essentially means a person that literally believes all is one, all is coming from one. That's what the word literally means of Yehuda, or if you look in the more ancient Hebrew of Yehuda, it basically means one that believes all is one, or all comes from one. And that's another way of saying, I believe in the interconnectedness of all things. I believe in love. That is another way of saying or translating the word Jew, is a believer in love. And if you want to say the word Christian believes, the word Christian means, someone that believes in a Messiah, which is essentially the concept of someone that is bringing world peace, or the messianic age, and that comes from a Jewish concept. So it literally means a Jewish person that believes the Messiah has come and is a bringer of is bringing the messianic age. And any person can be a believer in that, because the message is a message of love. So anyone that is sharing that message is bringing the messianic age. And it cannot, the true interpretation cannot be that any one person is bringing that. Everyone has to see that's a comical interpretation, because no one person can bring world peace. Only the message of love can bring world peace, and only us sharing it together can bring world peace. So we can all classify as a Christian sometimes, because if we are sharing the message of love and sharing the message of peace, you're being a Christian, you're being someone that believes in the message of the Messiah, which is a message of love and a message of unity, essentially, a message of connectedness. And that's the only thing that can bring that messianic age or world peace. So the more that message is shared, the more that brings peace. That's the only true interpretation that there can be of that concept. And so anyone, if we really look at those terms, means someone trying to love, again, and bringing peace is a result of trying to love. So Christian or Jew, they mean the same label. And the same things also come if we analyze the term Muslim. Muslim literally means one that is giving their all to God, or in other words, one that is loving God. And if you really analyze that, that means loving all, connecting to all. So that's a term that literally means love also. So it's just like, if you analyze those terms, that's what you see. We're at 4 minutes now. Okay, that's pretty much summarized the three Abrahamic religions. If we want to analyze the texts as well, let's try to do it as fast as possible. If we analyze the texts, we can see that the Ten Commandments, which originally came from the Code of Hammurabi, however you want to say it, in Iraq, or Iraq, however you want to say it, Iraq, however you want to say it, those 10 Commandments is basically the center of Judaism, or the belief that we are all one, we are all interconnected, and that all is from one, which is just a belief in love, in other words. And those 10 Commandments are essentially there to help us stay connected to each other, help us to not hurt one another. That's what those 10 Commandments are for. And all of the resulting text is supposed to be connected to those 10 Commandments. But if you really look in any religious text, you will have contradictions, because people become forgetful and people stray from us not seeing we're one, or from us forgetting we are one. People stray. So sorry, that was not the greatest way I could have said that, but you guys feel what I'm saying. I'm trying. It's hard. Anyways, so if we really analyze those 10 Commandments, we will see that it's just us trying to connect and love one another. And even Jesus, when Jesus came, Jesus said, I am not here trying to change those 10 commandments. I am here to fulfill them or to complete them. And so anybody that really tried to stop and think would have understood that Christianity and Judaism are 100% the same religion, especially because Jesus said, hey, I'm not changing those commandments. I'm here to complete them. I'm doing them. So people would have understood if they stopped and thought, oh, this is the same thing. It's just teaching this in another way or doing this in another way. Just like if somebody tells you, hey, do the dishes. You could do the dishes in multiple different ways. You are doing the same commandments in different ways. Just like the law system now is not doing or essentially completing the concept of eye for an eye, which is, if you analyze the concept of eye for an eye, it means let me teach this person that did me wrong. Okay, Jesus was like, you can teach the person that did you wrong by turning the other cheek. Or there's many other concepts, like the current law system has many concepts for, trying to educate somebody. So there's many ways for trying to educate. Like there's even people that have said, like, thank you. If somebody does something messed up, you could say thank you. There's so many ways to show this doesn't faze me. Let's stay connected. Or you could even just say, hey, I love you. Whoever is trying to hurt you, just to stay connected, not get into a state of disconnect and people hurting each other. We all just want peace and people to treat each other kindly and with love. So you could just say that. There's a lot of things that can be done. There's no one route to fulfill that commandment. And so that's still what you would want to call Judaism or being a person that believes in oneness and connectedness. But the thing that has kept these religions so separate is they're said in different places like we went before, but because there is this whole loop of survival. And in the past, most people didn't read and write. So people needed things to be said in these short one sentence things. And many people might even skip this video because it's longer than 1 minute because people got to run back to their job. People got to go survive. So because of that whole element, a lot of people still did not see that those texts are saying the same thing. But literally, Jesus was saying, you can show that person, hey, you're not going to faze me. I want there to be love in this world. I want there to be positivity in this world. So I'm just going to keep on being positive, and that negative hatefulness cannot faze me. I want to stay one. I am a Jew. I am a person that's connected. I want to stay connected. I don't ever want to let what anyone else does faze me. So that's another way of saying, another way of trying to educate, basically. Like if you really understand what the commandment is to educate wrongdoers. Hey, don't do that to me. That's not what I want. You don't want that. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. That's why it was said in simple for those that are struggling to survive eye for an eye, because that's very quick. But if we try to extend our attention span a little bit, we can see, okay, it's really about education, and we can really educate each other through words. And now we have a time where we all read and write. We can extend our attention span a little bit. We are not so on the loop of survival. We have an abundance of resources, so much that we're even struggling to stay skinny in this world. So we can all now have much longer attention spans. We can all now read and write much more. So we really don't have an excuse in terms of seeing, or in terms of saying, like, it's hard to even word it, dang it. We don't have an excuse to see or to say these religions are not one, because we have the time to stop, reflect, and see that they're all saying the same thing. And that's basically, if you analyze the text, showing how Jesus just came to extend people's attention span, show them there's other ways of educating each other other than just eye for an eye. There's many different methods. And if you look at the current law system, you'll see there's many different methods also that are expressed in trying to reform and trying to educate and trying to help us grow. It's just a way of staying connected in loving each other and educating each other. That's really what the commandment is. So I think that pretty much summarizes it. Let's go into Islam. So many people are unaware that Muslims 100% believe in the Ten Commandments and as well believe in the message of Jesus. So people could also categorize Muslims as Jews or Christians because, again, if you look at the label of a Jew or a Christian, it's the same meaning as the label of a Muslim. The only thing where Muslims might disagree is many people have interpreted different things in the Quran, which is mainly surrounding the crucifixion of Jesus. But if you actually look at that text, man, I feel like I probably lost everybody in this. I'll try. 30 more seconds. We'll see if anybody has the attention span for this. But I'm trying. It's okay. Let's go. So if anybody analyzes that text in the Quran, they'll see actually it is describing the resurrection of Jesus. It's talking about how people came, it specifically was saying, there were people that claimed, we killed Jesus, we killed Jesus. This is what, sorry, to put it in context, this is what the Prophet of Islam or Muhammad was saying. He was saying, they claimed we killed Jesus, but they killed him not, they crucified him not. It only appeared so, but God raised him unto himself, for God is the most wise, merciful, healer, sage. However you want to interpret the word hakeeman actually means sage, healer. Sometimes it's interpreted as most wise, but in any interpretation, it's describing the resurrection. The only thing that's happened, again, is because everyone is looping on survival, most everyone focused on a very short part of that verse, which is the short part that is, did not crucify or kill him. And so everybody was like, that means Jesus was not crucified. But if you look at the whole verse, it says it appeared so, and Jesus was raised unto God, God raised Jesus unto himself. So basically describing a resurrection in another type of way that is different than how Christians say it. But it's just saying the same thing in different ways. And many Muslims will also say, hey, many Christians believe that Jesus is God. But if you look at the New Testament, nowhere did Jesus say that he is God. It's just people's interpretation because many people believed in many gods or in many super powerful beings. Basically, that's what people would call a god, is essentially a being with powers that has essentially abilities that are different than the normal human ability. So it's just different ways of describing reality. But let's go to example in how Hinduism, this is just a quick sidebar. Hinduism is 100% saying the same thing as Christianity and Islam, and Krishna's teachings are the same as Jesus's teachings, Muhammad's teachings. They're all the same teachings if you really want to look into it and think for yourself. The gods in Hinduism 100% parallel with Christianity and Islam's angels. So basically, the word angels or super powerful beings that help create reality in Christianity is just called gods that came from Brahman, and the Brahman in Hinduism is the concept of God in Christianity, or this oneness that created all things. But the central factor, again, in all religions and everything, in all identities, is love, is this oneness that interconnects all things, that enables us to extend outside of ourselves. And that's a huge thing that has been misinterpreted throughout history and religions. Many people think religions is talking about some man with a beard that's in the sky, and that has been really misinterpreted, especially in Abrahamic religions. In Abrahamic religions, everybody wants to think that God is a man with a beard in the sky, but Jesus literally says God is love. Jesus literally says that. If you look into the text, Jesus literally says God is love. Love is not a man with a beard. Love is not a woman. Love is not any form. Love is a oneness that exists within all things. That's what God is. That's what all religions have been trying to say, but people have not really looked into it. enough. Like if we now have the time to look into it and think about things more. So even also, it's been talked about by Islam. If you look in the texts, it literally describes that God is not a man or a woman. Most Muslims understand from the text, the Quran, that God is not a man or a woman. God is a oneness. God is love. It's much more understood. And even rabbis that have really looked into the Torah or the Talmud or the Zohar have also understood God as infinite, as love, as oneness. So it just depends on anyone that has really looked into it and studied it and understood that, you know, what we call love, what sets our spirit free, that's the path. That's what we're trying to connect to. That's what enables us to grow and be free and live a meaningful life. That's the religion. That's what all religions have been trying to point to get us in touch with what you would call God or love or the innermost self that connects us to all things. This is what Hinduism talks about. This is what all religions talks about. But that was going off into a sidebar in Hinduism, but again, that's all religions are talking about, that just speaking it in different ways. And that's why many Christians, call Jesus God, because it was just a different way of describing reality. But if you look into the texts in Christianity, the New Testament, Jesus is constantly praying to God. Jesus doesn't say, myself thou that art in heaven. That doesn't happen. It literally is, dear Father or dear Creator that is in heaven. Just also know there's misinterpretation because Aramaic is a gendered language. The same with Arabic. Like the Quran literally says that God is not a man, but because the language is gendered, it's an issue that happens. It's just how the language is. But the verses literally say that God is not a man or a woman, literally describing God to be love or a oneness, interconnectedness that is within all things. So if you really look into the text or just think for yourself and really look within yourself, you'll see that there is that love and that oneness within all things, and that connecting to that sets your spirit free. So that's something that all religions are describing, and you can see if you really look into it. And you can see that Islam and Christianity, which is what we were trying to talk about before, are not saying different things at all. It's just people's interpretation from it, especially having different ways of describing reality and describing these things, has caused a lot of confusion and misinterpretations. But all the confusion and stuff clears away when people just spend the time, and we have the time now to look, oh, we've just been saying the same thing in different ways this whole time. And then all the confusion's cleared away. So that's pretty much it for the Abrahamic religions. And we did a sidebar into Hinduism and how Hinduism is using the word gods for angels. And the gods that came from Brahman are the angels in Christianity that came from God that help to construct reality. It's literally describing the same thing in different ways. So I just hope that everyone spends the time to research these things, because we're making divisions and causing war for literally no reason. If we look into the text, we will see they're saying the same thing. So let's stop the stupidity. Let's actually research and stop this looping on survival and this one sentence, really short-sighted thought. And we can do it. Like, let's do it, you guys. We can all do the research. I'll share the specific verses I'm talking about in the description, and we can do it. We can bring peace right now in our time.